This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. If you don't already subscribe to Paramount Plus, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/Paramount Plus. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only.
Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of the Star Trek Picard cast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And tonight we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 2 of Star Trek Picard, titled Penance. But before we get started, we want to remind you that we now have early access. Well, if you can call it that, because we're several weeks behind. But from a virtually uncensored version of the podcast that goes out anyway, earlier access than the regular listener gets. So and hear them, with all the grittiness and raw sausage being made kind of stuff, things that we shouldn't say, things we have to, like me and my pronunciation. I'm not using heavy blank at this time. Anyway, you can go to patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie to sign up, and as little as $1 a month gets you access to those episodes. So we don't really have any feedback on the season premiere of Picard other than people being happy that we're back. So, and we're happy to be back.
Yay.
But let's move on right away to the episode in hand. Season 2 episode. Yeah, I said I don't have a weighted blanket on my head. I really meant it, even though you'd never know it from what I just said. Anyway, Season 2, Episode 2 of Star Trek Picard is titled Penance. The teleplay was by Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas. Why can't I get it right? Anyway,
No.
Terry Matalas. And it's one of those ampersands between those two. And then the word and Christopher Monfett. And I've explained this before on the podcast, but what that means is if you have an ampersand, you're writing as a team. If it's an and, that means your writing has moved on to another, stage, and someone else is writing separately. So basically Christopher Monfett took what Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas had and redid it. Okay, so essentially that's what it means. Story by Michael Chabon, who was the showrunner last season, with the letter or the word and in there again. Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas with an ampersand between them. And then another and with the word Christopher Monfett. So there's like a whole,
so many
staging. Yeah. And it was directed by, again, for the second episode in a row, Doug Arniokoski. And I think they follow this throughout. Like each of the directors does 2 episodes in a row. Because I know at least through the first 6 anyway, it's been that way. It was rated TV-14 with coarse language and violence. And the description from ParamountPlus.com, Picard finds himself transported to an alternate timeline in the year 2400, where his longtime nemesis Q has orchestrated one final trial. Picard searches for his crusty crew. Searches for his trusted crew as he attempts to find the cause for this dystopian future. We don't have a star date, and it aired March 10th, 2022. The runtime was 54 minutes and 20 seconds. All right, Ruthie, how would you rate Penance?
I enjoyed this episode for a lot of reasons. And I can't remember what I gave the first episode.
9.
9?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say, I think I like this one a little bit more. So I'm going to give it a 9.25.
Well, I watched this prior to us starting again for first time in several weeks, but I had watched it several times before because we were hoping to cover it, but we weren't able to just because of just my moving schedule and how all that went down. So I watched it several times then, but I remember I think the first day I watched it 4 times. Anyway, I love this episode. I thought it was better than the premiere, and I love the premiere. I gave the premiere a 9.75. So I'm going to give this one not quite perfect, just a couple little minor things to quibble about, but a 9.95. Divergent Timelines by Mr. Alphabet. That's something that Rafi calls Q, Mr. Alphabet. So,
yeah.
Listener ratings, Ruthie?
Penance. Oh, I'm sorry. James the Augmented Sailor says Penance gets 10. I'm too old for your bullshit, Q.
Yeah. Wes from Minnesota says, this episode was shocking and amazing at the same time. I give Penance 10 Q slaps to Picard out of 10.
Brian from Colorado says, wow, what an episode. I give Penance 9.5 out of 10 President Annika 7-shot Hansons.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
Annika 7-shot.
I mean, Girardi's just so good at thinking on her feet. I love her.
Yeah. And Mike from Cleveland also loved this one. He gives it 10 out of 10. Never, and I mean never, let the Borg Queen look deep into your soul.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. Listener yeses?
Yes!
First of all, for our yeses. James the Augmented Sailor said, Cisco name drop. Along with all the other DS9 Easter eggs. Yes, there were several of them, particularly in the skulls department. There were some there. Q striking Jean-Luc. It instantly made him more sinister and unhinged. I love it.
Oh, I did not like that.
No.
Nope, I didn't. All right, Wes from Minnesota says, yes, the visual and verbal Easter eggs. How very yesterday's enterprise of you. The slap was very well acted. Did Q have pent-up anger for Cisco punching him? I don't know. The shock factor for the Confederation of Earth was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brian from Colorado says, I enjoyed Q's interactions with Picard and his seemingly sincere desire to teach Picard an important lesson. The skulls of characters we know, like Gul Dukat and General Martok, were sinister to see. Seeing the main characters arrive in the mirror universe and gain their footing in their alter ego roles was fun to watch, especially for 7. The name drop of General Cisco was exciting to hear, and my son pointed out a Sung statue Easter egg in the San Francisco Bay scene. The humor from Agnes was fun as always. Yes, it was. Okay,
It
so
was.
a couple things there to mention. This is not a mirror universe. This is an alternate timeline. So this is not like, Mirror Mirror or DS9 Mirror Universe or even Discovery Mirror Universe. This is the same Picard, whatever, with the past changed. So this is, if anything, this is similar to, say, the Kelvin timeline. This is essentially like that. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing was, it's not just a soon Easter egg in the San Francisco Bay. You hear Brent Spiner saying the words, like he's whatever you hear at that one point, you're actually hearing Brent Spiner's voice. So he's got to be involved there. And I'm not going to say any more about that, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really agree with the idea that it's not the quote unquote the mirror universe, but it is an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Because according to the way that they've set it up, every time there's a divergence in your choice or whatever, anything that you do, it's setting up a whole new universe. So while it's not the mirror universe with, the whatever those people call themselves, the
Terrans.
Yeah. Not that.
Right.
But it is an alternate universe, not just an alternate timeline.
Yeah, it's like there's two different kinds of alternate universes, I guess you could say. There's the
there are way more than just two.
Okay.
There are a myriad of different universes, as we know, based on when all of those enterprises showed up. So
Right.
You can't just say there are two different universes.
No, I didn't say that.
Or three different universes. You said there are two different kinds. There are more than just two different kinds.
Well, what I mean is there's kinds like where the mirror universe is like there's a constant that is never wavers, and we see that the whatever the constant is, it's different between the mirror universe and the prime universe. And then there's universes that get sprouted up by timeline and just a divergence in the timeline, and I'm assuming that that whatever that constant was, that constant's not changing at all. It's just spawn off a new permutation, I guess. I don't know.
How do you know that didn't happen with the mirror universe, though?
I don't know. I just know that what they said in like season 1 of Discovery, they said that there was like some kind of constant that each universe has, and it's different from one universe to the other. And that was one way that's how Giorgio knew that Burnham was from the prime universe, because whatever she had was from that universe, was from prime. But when it's being spawned off by some time travel in infection, I guess you could say, that's something different. Does it change the constant? I don't know. I don't know. This is all science fiction anyway, so
I don't think I agree with that. I don't think it's different. I think it's the same, whether or not it's created by a divergence in a timeline or what. I mean, it's a different universe, and it exists now.
Yes.
They want to get to their old universe, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, that's my biggest issue with this whole thing, is that they've set it up to be like it's an alternate timeline and we can go back and fix it. But that's not Trek lore. According to everything we've already known about Trek, there's a multiverse, not a universe anyway. And there are countless unknown universes out there, multiverses, whatever, universes within the multiverse out there that every time you do something different creates a new one. And I mean, it's like infinite branches. And I don't know. I mean, some of them diverge a lot.
Right.
Some of them diverge a little.
Right.
So, I mean,
if anything,
that's really my biggest issue with this whole thing is that you can't really like backpedal and change the way that everything has been set up in Trek, because it's like we can't fix our timeline and go back and make things the way that it was. We just want to get back to our original universe is really what they mean.
it's like Back to the Future rules in a lot of ways, because if you think about it, when Marty McFly goes back to the future and goes back to 1985, the future that he goes back to is not the same as the one he left, right? It's different.
Yeah, I understand how time travel works.
No, I know. But I'm bringing up the point. I think it's the same point that you're making, is that you're not going back to the same one you came from because things have changed. So anyway, we're going to have to see how this changes things, or does it? I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right. Next, we have Mike from Cleveland who says, yes, Dr. Girardi felt the need to address her relationship issues with Rios at an entirely wrong moment.
Yes,
I know, that was funny. I would hang up on you right now if it wouldn't mean we all died. That was funny. I love her, especially in this episode. I love her. I love her scenes. I love everything about her. Her tendency to like ramble and word vomit, and it all makes sense anyway. And people just look at her like, what?
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I concur that she was my one and only yes I wrote down. Not because I didn't think everything else was great, but that was the one thing when I went back and watched it this afternoon. I was like, man, she's good in this episode.
Yeah, she's really good in this episode. I also really, really enjoyed Elnor with the whole, I don't know anything. Me neither, kiddo.
Yeah.
And Q, I know him from your biography. Still not understanding sarcasm with the whole, what did she say? Something about, I don't know what she said. She said something sarcastic, and then he responded with, I don't think that's what that means, Rafi. She's like, or I can't remember what he said, but he's like, just still not, his absolute candor. He still doesn't understand, not grasping the concept of sarcasm. And he's just so cute. So sad. He's so cute. Also, I think I have one more yes.
Uh-huh.
The android, whatever, Harvey, I think
Harvey.
His name was. My records show both were killed at the gates of Romulus. Spoken with such a cheery tone. I was like, man, he just really knows how to deliver the bad news, doesn't he?
Yep. The synths that, and we see the president also has a synth. Who doesn't have the name of Harvey. He has the name of, what was it, 335 or something like that?
Something like that. Who knows?
Yeah. You have anything else?
I don't know. Just that whole scene with Agnes, Annika 7-Shock.
Oh, yeah.
Going on college drinking game.
Yeah.
Or college nickname drinking game. And just the way she just rattles off all that stuff. I mean, she really is smart. She's a genius, and it shows. She's got like the quick thinking ability to be able to just rattle all that stuff off with no real like pre-planning or whatever. So
right.
It was good. Anyway, I'm just gushing about her because I really liked her.
There's a lot to gush about. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
Well, let me see. I think I have to point out John Delancey's performance in the cold open of this episode. I thought he was amazing. In many ways, like, this this omnipotent being who toys with Picard, but in, very both subtle and grand ways, is much more serious than we're used to seeing him. Like the slap, as some people have already brought up, just showed him in a much different way than we've seen him before. I thought that, showing the skulls there, both were nice little Easter eggs, but also, I mean, Picard's got a trophy room of skulls. Think about that for a minute. It wasn't the Enterprise he had, but the CSS, was it the CSS World Razor? I think it's what they called it, not the Enterprise.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Not really I guess a yes, but just worth highlighting since it popped in my head. I thought the whole, alternate timeline / universe, whatever, was really well done. The thought that, we never bothered to fix up the planet. We just kind of like, I don't know, threw Band-Aids on it. That was kind of both interesting and disturbing in a way. Like, essentially, they just put up, like shields to block the ozone layer, I guess. I don't know, or eat up the pollution. I don't know exactly what it's doing, but
take the place of the ozone layer, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah.
Because if we don't have an ozone, then we're all going to fry.
Right. Exactly. What else could I say about it? I liked 7 of 9 waking up and that kind of shock that she doesn't have her Borg implants in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the double shock of like, she's married, right?
Yeah. Not
to Raffi, which you see how they're both kind of like thinking they might be, that could be a possibility, but it's obviously not. And it to be this guy who neither of them seem to know, which is kind of funny because he's played by John Briones, who's Isa Briones' father. If you didn't know, I think I mentioned that on the previous podcast. I don't know if it actually made it on there or not. We might have taken it out. That would be, one of those things that, the sausage, part of the sausage. Anyway, because Kim edited that, so I don't know if it stayed in or not.
I thought you said something about that in the Discovery podcast that we were talking about.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I can't remember. It's been too many sleeps ago.
Yes. What else can I say? Yeah, just the whole, shock of the thing. Picard, not surprised that he's a general, but that he's like ruthless. Just wow. That's not the Picard that I would expect. But in this kind of future, I guess it would be the Picard that would, that I could see. And I just thought
the setup.
Oh,
I was going to say, I thought the setup of before you see the actual world and get the full, like, oh, this is really horrible situation of what's going on. When they walk into the kitchen, all the people in the kitchen are like
Romulan slaves. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, that's what they were, but that's not what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was talking about how they all reacted to him and were like suddenly just super tense and just like, don't make contact, don't draw attention, right. Just really just suddenly on edge and suddenly just like that, oh shit, don't look at me kind of a tension thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
aside from the fact that were they all Romulans or were some of them?
I don't know if they all were Romulans. I definitely noticed that it seemed like most of them were. But I don't know for sure if all of them were, but I definitely noticed a good portion of them were. So, and that was one thing I wondered in my watch today of it. I wondered if Romulus had the supernova in this universe or not. That's something I'm still, wondering about, because I still have thoughts that wasn't a man-made thing, but we may never know. Anyway.
You have thoughts that it wasn't a man-made thing?
Yeah.
Or that it was?
No, sorry. I have thoughts that it was a man-made thing, not that it wasn't something that was natural. That it just seemed, seemed like a Section 31 thing to me. But anyway, we'll probably never know. I'm sure there's probably 47 more things I could say that would be yeses on this one, but I'm going to stop. And I'm going to instead go to our nose. No! I love playing that one again. Anyway, I like books, no, but you can't beat Picard S2E2 saying no. Anyway.
Yep. All right. We have James the Augmented Sailor who says, no, I have none.
And Wes from Minnesota says, I actually have none.
And Brian from Colorado says, the name drop to yesterday's Enterprise felt very out of place and forced. I didn't like it, although I think the allusion that Q made to In a Mirror Darkly was handled much better.
Yeah. I think there are reasons why that both of them were in there, which I'll get into later. But yes, In a Mirror Darkly was more, I don't know, skilledly placed in there. Skillfully. I was going to say well written. I probably would have been better off saying that and not say skilledly. Skilledly. That's a good word. I'm tired. Didn't sleep last night. I couldn't fall asleep. So it's always something with me. Yeah, so it was a little more clunky, putting the yesterday's Enterprise in there. But anyway, I thought it was good. And Mike from Cleveland says, how is it possible neither Chakotay nor the Doctor was Seven's husband in the new reality? And I said, I could see the Doctor, well, not being her husband, unless you mean Dr. Zimmerman. But then again, we can't really finish that. But, certain things happen to that character. So, we say that with the idea that if you're watching with this, then that might be a spoiler, but we're assuming that you've already seen episode 3.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's okay.
I think it was a missed opportunity as well. It would have been really cool to see some Voyager character come back and
I think so too.
Be her husband. It would have been like, I don't know. She probably, I don't know. I mean, she might have had a different adverse reaction if she were married to someone. I mean, I think maybe someone that she wasn't even ever in a relationship with. Like someone just showed up and she would have been like, whoa, what are you, rather than a complete stranger. I mean, a complete stranger is off-putting as well, but I don't know. I just thought, oh yeah, they could have done that. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Tom Paris.
Yeah. Or Harry Kim. That would have been funny.
Yeah. Harry Kim. That was, I think, that got mentioned. I think he mentions it actually, Mike, in his Hold Your Horses. Or sorry. Not good enough. I got that wrong. I should know better. Especially when I'm lecturing people about putting in Hold Your Horses versus Not Good Enough in the Discovery. That is it from our listener no's. Ruthie, do you have any no's?
don't know that I really have any no's. I think they're all going to be not good enough. So, no.
My only no is that we didn't see Laris in this alternate timeline. We find out that she's dead, but we didn't see her. So I think it would have been nice to see her. That is the only thing I had. All right, so let's move on to our not good enough section.
Not good enough, damn it! Not good enough!
Ruthie, you want to take the first one?
All right. First, we have James the Augmented Sailor, who says, as a subscriber to quantum string theory, if you mess with time, you're essentially shifting to a new universe, not changing your own. I'm surprised they went in this direction, saying it wasn't a new reality. I don't give it a no because string theory isn't law, but it is becoming more and more accepted in the scientific community. I agree with you, James. This bothered me also. All right. Next, he says, why would the president...
I don't disagree, even though it sounded like it did earlier.
Okay. Next, he says, why would the president or the general not have the authority to override security protocols? And why would the magistrate have presidential override credentials? I get he's the first husband, but that's need to know data.
I wondered that myself.
Yeah, same. I was kind of thinking to myself, this guy seems to have a lot of power, and I didn't really understand why. And I thought, well, maybe it's just because we don't really understand the role of the magistrate.
Right.
It seems like she's the president of this, horrid dystopian future, but we don't really know what kind of tattletaling mandates they have on each other. I mean, he did kind of jokingly, not jokingly mention that he should submit her for how did he phrase it? Telepathic incursion or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Telepathic incursion.
And I was like, damn. So, I mean, this is probably an extreme version of see something, say something, report your neighbors kind of a situation happening, I would think. So we don't know what kind of power the magistrate has, although I must say I thought it was odd that she didn't have the ability to override, nor the general. But then again, on the other hand, she probably did, but how would Annika know that? Or how would Seven know that? Annika would. Seven would be like, all she can do is throw her weight around, which she tried to do, and in the end, it ultimately didn't really seem to work.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, okay, magistrate, that's usually some kind of judicial position, right? Isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know that we have a magistrate in position anywhere here.
Okay. Hey, Siri, what is a magistrate?
This may not be completely accurate, but here it is.
It gave me nothing. Said something in Wichita, Kansas.
Huh, that's funny.
What is a
Dictionary
magistrate?
Definition of a magistrate is a civil
magistrate
officer.
is used in a variety of systems of governments and laws to refer to a civilian officer who administers the law.
Ah, okay. As a civilian officer who administers the law.
Yeah. According to Google, the definition is a civil officer or lay judge who administers the law, especially one who conducts a court that deals with minor offenses and holds preliminary hearings for more serious ones.
Okay, that doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like his position.
Well, again, it's probably a title they made up. I mean,
yeah.
She doesn't really seem like a president, does she? She kind of seems like head dictator. So,
yeah.
I mean,
dictator.
It's probably an arbitrary term that I don't even know why we're looking this up. It's probably just an arbitrary term that they came up with to indicate some type of level or authority in their government. And we don't know anything about their government. So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like the Russians. They have this, I think they have these like three positions where the three people, like, you always hear about Putin, but he's like, there are like three positions that they all like switch around. I think there's like president, prime minister, and secretary general, something like that. Something like that. I don't know if that's the exact name, but these three people switch around, but in the end, it's Putin that's the leader. So, anyway.
Well, I mean, there are some governments on the planet that have a prime minister and a president, and they just
Right.
they have different roles. But
Right.
I don't know. He's apparently a head jerk in charge or something. I don't know.
Very much seems like a marriage of convenience, not so
Maybe.
much a marriage of love.
Could be, but it could also be that, I mean, again, knowing nothing about their society or what they value other than purity, we don't know that they don't have, like, that the first husband isn't the person who is in charge of making sure that the president doesn't become telepathically infiltrated or
Right.
whatever. So, we don't know.
No, we don't. But anyway, I agree with what you said, James, all the way. Wes from Minnesota, his not good enoughs, he says, I love the way this confederation was set up. Not necessarily a mirror universe, but definitely entertaining. The ending reminds me of the way Mirror Chekhov confronted R. Kirk for not destroying the Halkans in Mirror Mirror. This timeline could be further explored in a Myriad Universes novel. I'd read it. Yeah.
Well, all right then.
It could. I could see that too, actually.
Brian from Colorado says, I wish they had explained how the Borg Queen was captured and able to be trapped in some sort of force field, which apparently is too strong for her to break out of, but easily transported to Rios' ship. Likewise, I wondered if the Confederation was an outgrowth of the Terran Empire in the mirror universe we know. I actually think it's not, that this is a totally new universe, but it would have been nice to make it more clear for the viewer. I agree. I feel like the mirror universe and the Terran Empire people were set on that path long before 2024, though.
Yes, I agree. This is like a baby Terran Empire.
Yeah.
In a way.
Although it did seem on a par with them, like brutality-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the mirror universe. I'm trying to think of how different it is. Not all that different. Not all that different at all, actually. Last is Mike from Cleveland. He says, darn it, come on, not even Harry Kim? So many good options to be Seven's husband. Really, even Tuvok would have worked here. Well, no, Tuvok
I don't
wouldn't
think
have worked.
so.
Tuvok wouldn't have worked considering they're
Tuvok
at
is a
war.
Vulcan.
Yeah.
With the Vulcans.
Yeah, I don't think that would have worked. They're at war with the Vulcans, so yeah, no Tuvok here.
But yeah, even Harry Kim.
Yep, Harry Kim. As I said, obviously Chakotay, Paris, Catherine Janeway. Who know? Who knows? You know. All right. What do you have for not good enough?
A lot of times I often wonder at the things that remain the same in these altered timelines / universes. Like Picard still resides at Chateau Picard. I'm like, I understand they don't want to create entirely new sets, but I don't know that and also the San Francisco still appears to be the capital. I'm like, the reasons that these things happened in the original timeline wouldn't necessarily have occurred in the new timeline.
Right.
So I think some things should have changed a bit more drastically. Like, I don't really know that I could say specifically why San Francisco is the head of Starfleet / the Federation, whatever, in Star Trek. But I don't know that those same reasons would have been in place in this new timeline. I just feel like more things should have been different. And not just different, but like a lot different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I just thought of another yes.
Okay.
I love the cat. Obviously. Meow. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I also didn't understand exactly how connected to the ship did the Borg Queen need to be. I mean, like, I don't know. I just kind of felt like they sort of dragged that out a bit unnecessarily for the sake of drama, I think. Like, she could have, and maybe it's just they didn't explain this part very well, like exactly how deactivated or disabled she had been, but it just seemed like she had to connect to too many things, and it was kind of like dragging it out so that the bad guys could catch them. That's kind of how it felt like to me.
All right. Anything else?
Nah.
The one thing that I noticed is when the magistrate catches them on La Serena, he's the first one to beam in, which I thought was rather odd.
Yeah.
I would think that he would have beamed in with, security or whatever, not by himself. Because if you look at the scene, he comes in and then several seconds later, his security people come in. And
right.
I just, it was enough on this last watch to, give pause and go, that doesn't look right to me. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It did seem kind of, and if we're sticking with the classic definition, he's a civil officer, not a military one. So how much security type training could he possibly have had to be the best one to go in first? Of course, that's assuming that they're sticking with that definition,
Yeah. I mean, the way I wrote it down is I said, look at me. I caught my wife, the president, Dr. Girardi, and General Picard with a terrorist and a Borg. Who knows why? But I caught them. Traitors. That was kind of like how it seemed to be. It's just like, he's like, dibs is dibs. If you remember that from The Walking Dead. And
yep. Oh, dibs. Dibs is dibs.
Eugene. Yeah, that's how it was. It was kind of like him calling dibs. Anyway, that's about it. I can think of. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode, so I don't have much to quibble about at all. And pretty much everybody's already talked about everything as much as I would have. All right, so let's move on. We've got a couple of voicemails, so let's open hailing frequencies. All right, our first of two. Guess who it's from? Guess. Just guess. It's, of course, from Jeff X-Force 11.
Hello, Star Trek fans. This is Jeff X-Force 11 leaving my feedback on Picard. Oh my gosh. Season 2, Episode 2, Penance. This season is bringing it. I am absolutely loving it. Terry is doing a great job as the showrunner of this series, and I just love it. This episode was action-packed, looking at a different time and setting us up on this we've got to go back to the past and fix things type of deal. Oh my goodness, it was just so good. The pacing was excellent. Just the switching things around in this reality. Oh, goodness. I am just loving this series so far and cannot wait to hear what y'all say about it. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force is out.
And sorry, Jeff, for making you wait so long to hear what we have to say about it. But thank you so much,
I'm not
Jeff.
quite sure. Did he like it?
Well, the good news is we loved it too. And I mean, at least up to this part in the series, the season of Picard, it's it's hitting it out of the park. I mean, and especially I think this episode was just for me. I'd say, there were a couple of episodes from season one. The first episode and the episode when they're on what's the name of that planet? The planet where Will and Deanna are on. Nepenthe. That episode, those two were 10 or close to 10, and this would be right up there, I think, for that level of quality for me. So I really enjoyed this one a lot. I don't know where you stand on it, but it's
I really liked it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about Jeff's voicemail? If not,
I think he really liked it.
He did. He definitely did. And let's move on. We got actually another voicemail from we've got his comments all through the episode, but we got a nice long voicemail from Mike from Cleveland. So let's listen to that.
Hey Brian, hey Ruthie, and all my other Star Trek nerdy friends out there. Mike in Cleveland. This is for Picard season 2, episode 2. Sorry. First, I want to start off with I'd like to do a little bitty minor shout out to Ruthie. Hey, you and I had a little back and forth over a different Star Trek property. We don't agree on a certain subject line, but the fact that you went back and forth with me over this, we were in my opinion, we were both very polite to each other. We just spoke our truths. I love that. I love the fact that some lady in Oklahoma and some truck driver in Ohio who did not agree, but both agreed to love Star Trek, were able to go back and forth and have a conversation, whether we agree or don't agree. This is why I listen to this podcast. This is why I support this podcast. And I just want to tell you, from me to you, I love the fact that you and I was able to go back and forth over that. Okay, to Picard, episode 2. Absolutely am loving Picard episode 2. Now, I'm an easy grade. I love Picard season 1. So people might say, oh, we're going to downgrade everything you say because you're an easy A. We don't care what your opinion. I love that season 1. I am absolutely loving season 2 to this point, episode 2. Give me 7 or 9, and I'm probably going to give you like a 12 out of 10 because I think 7 or 9, Worf, and Mr. Spock, they're the 3 greatest Star Trek characters ever created, beyond none, that weren't leads. So when you give me 7 or 9 being 7 or 9, and you give me Picard being, I didn't like Picard and TNG, sorry, not sacrilegious, just saying. I did not like Picard and TNG because I thought he was a little bit too holier than thou. I love him being a little bit more flawed. I love him being a little bit more of a failed. I like Picard a lot after the Lacrucis, I'm saying it wrong, part when he got taken over by the Borg. I think that knocked him down a peg. I loved him in First Contact because he was shown to be a little bit over the board. So I'm loving this version of Picard. I'm loving what the show is doing with him. And I really like the story that they're going with us in the series of Picard. Like I said, I love the way Jean-Luc is going. Never was a big fan of Q, but I kind of like what they're showing us with Q this season. I'm pretty sure Guinan's about to come back. Really wasn't a big Guinan guy. I kind of fallen in love with Agnes. I'm saying Agnes, Dr. Riccardi, whatever her name is. Her quirkiness is kind of getting to me. I love that. Raffi, I love the character of Raffi. But I think this season is going to be exceptional. I think this season is like season 4 of DS9 season 2 and 3 of TNG, where the show really takes that leap and becomes what it's supposed to be. So I'm really excited for where we are. I'm really excited for where we're going. I think this season of Picard is going to be amazing. It's got me really excited about season 3, and I hope we all stay in there. Mike in Cleveland, thanks for talking to you guys. Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for sending in that voicemail. And I got to say, I love that. I love what you had to say there. That's what it's all about. We can agree to disagree, but we will say our truths about Star Trek. And hey, not all the time do Ruthie and I agree on things, and sometimes we just gotta put it aside.
I'm glad you enjoyed the repartee.
Yeah. But that's. I mean, we love our Star Trek, and we love it when we can get into healthy discussions with our listeners. And we don't all have to agree on stuff, and there are a lot of times, and I get this all the time, practically every week on the podcast, Ruthie will come up with something that I never thought of or that I disagree with, and she changes my opinion on it. It's usually on her side to me, but not always. Sometimes I'll sway her, but not often. But sometimes I do. At least I like to think that I do. Anyway.
I'm sure there have been times.
There have been times. I know. It's just funny when I kind of play it that I am powerless against you. Anyway, but yeah, it's good, and this so far has been, of the 2 episodes that we've covered, this has been a great start. I think it's worth saying that I think Ruthie and I can both say that those first 8 episodes of Picard season 1, we loved them. I mean, it was fantastic. It was those last 2 episodes that just ruined it for us, especially the second, the penultimate. It really ruined it for us. So, just I still have issues with it when I think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I would say I had issues with some of the other episodes.
I did too.
As well. I don't know that I would say I 100% loved the first 8 episodes, but I definitely, at least I think the first 4.
Yeah. And in my case,
there was like a middle 4 in there that I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. I mean,
or how I feel about it.
In my case, I love the first one. I loved, with a small L, the next 2. Didn't really like the 4th one. That was the one where I started really having doubts in how they were portraying Picard. And then kind of got over it eventually, and then then
I really liked the episodes with Troy and Riker.
Yeah. That one
was outstanding.
That one was my favorite, I think. Yeah. So I mean, it was bumpy first season. That's the best way to say it to me. And it's funny when you were kind of fumbling around trying to say Girardi. Sound like you were going to say at one point Bacardi. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
That girl.
Yeah, that girl.
That blonde.
She's been really good in this show. She's not someone that I really knew before.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't.
I love Allison Pill.
I mean, I know she's been in other stuff. I know she was in that. I know she was in the newsroom. I know she was in that one show on Hulu called Devs, but neither of them I've ever seen.
She was also in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
It's funny. She played the drummer.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. We've got some written feedback now. Ruthie, why don't you take James?
Okay. Finally, we've got James the Augmented Sailor who says, to go with my not good enough. So with this an alternate timeline and therefore an alternate universe, is this the original mirror universe? We hadn't visited since DS9, so Earth could have formed the Confederation and taken a stranglehold on the galaxy since then. I know that's not what the writers had in mind, but it would totally fit. Also, Girardi is still really flaky. She should get with Reg Barkley and have group sessions with Troy. Oh, I don't think she's that bad. I'd also like to know where Soji was for the episode. Is she not going to be along for other time traveling adventure? These first 2 episodes have absolutely blown me away. I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts. I mean, technically, she wasn't on any of the ships. She was still back on that planet. So I don't think she would have been included in that time traveling stuff that they did.
Well, she would have been harder to explain, you know?
Yeah. We would have been like, where did she come from?
Yeah.
So I was kind of glad that they left her out. And I think that Girardi is way, way more confident than Barkley is. Maybe not in personal matters necessarily, but definitely professionally. So
yeah. All right. That's it for our. All right, Ruthie, what do you have for other notes?
You know, I thought that John Delancey was excellent, despite what he thinks about his own acting abilities. However, I've never really been a fan of Q because I'm not a huge fan of an all-powerful being who can do and get away with whatever he wants with zero consequences in the type of mischievous puck-like creature that he is thing. I just have never really, I mean, they've done some great episodes, but honestly, the only reason I was really okay with them in TNG is because of the nature of that show. Like, it was resolved in a single episode, and I was okay with that. And so I could, endure it for that episode and then move on. But this whole thing, I mean, it just kind of grates on me a little bit. I don't really like the way that things like that tend to play out, I guess, so to speak. Like, I have a very strong sense of like what's fair and what's not fair, and all this stuff. I'm like, it's just very unfair, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Anything else?
I was a little surprised, I guess. I mean, I could kind of understand it, but I was kind of like, why didn't Rios, in the time that it took him to fly back to Earth from, I guess he was around Vulcan, like do a little bit of exploring about his ship rather than just assuming that his ship would behave the way that he thought it should behave? In other words, like somebody comes along with a presidential override and just shuts everything down. I mean, that seems like a big oopsie to overlook.
You think so? Well,
yeah, I do. And I mean, he might not have been able to necessarily do anything about it, but, forewarned is forearmed, or whatever that stupid phrase is. I just feel like it sort of took them a little bit too much by surprise. Like, come on, nobody was expecting this.
I think that it seemed like he did study somewhat of what was going on with the ship, but I don't know how much time he could have had to, study it over, and also considering he had been away from the ship for, a year or so.
Even more of a reason to do a cursory glancing at the specs and systems and whatnots. I mean, I would think that some kind of like, oh, this allows for a presidential override that can completely shut down my ship. I don't know. I just kind of thought, I guess I'm so newly remembering another ship that just got taken over by someone a little bit too recently, and maybe I'm still a bit chafed by it. Somebody else just lets their ship get taken over. Like it's no big deal.
Are you speaking about that other Star Trek series?
Yes.
Yes, I thought
yes,
you might
I
be.
am.
I thought you might be. A certain character that rhymes with Darko.
I was actually thinking of the character that rhymes with Look.
Yes. In fact, Darko is wrong anyway. It would be Darka. After I said it, it's like, wait a minute, that's not right. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I concur.
I don't know. It just seems honestly really foolhardy to just land in, be taken completely by surprise and then not even do a cursory examination of your ship that's basically keeping you from the void of space and death.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could also be a little bit influenced by, I just finished listening to the Expanse audiobooks, and they have a little bit of a different attitude towards their spacecraft.
Oh,
the things that they use to
You got through
travel.
all of them?
Huh?
You got through all of them?
Yep. The things that they rely on to protect them when they're out there in between, life and death. They have just a little bit of a different attitude about putting their lives in the hands of something they know nothing about.
Right.
In other words, they don't do it.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
You remind me of something that I thought of when I was watching it today, and that is that that scene when we see Rios and he's talking to, I don't know if it's another colonel or a captain or something. And, he's kind of having a leading conversation with that person and he's saying to her, like,
what is my plan?
What are my orders? Or, what is my plan? It reminded me of the scene when the Discovery lands in the Mirror Universe, and they run up with the ISS Cooper, and and that's when Tilly does this.
Hello, this is Captain Tilly. What the hell? What the hell? Hold your horses.
I just have to have an excuse to use that. Anyway, but seriously, when they run up to that ship and they kind of have this conversation, it's kind of like they have no idea what the other ship's going to say. It reminded me of that particular exchange, even though it wasn't exactly the same, but it was. And you notice that Annika has a similar conversation with her husband, not knowing, what he's going to say exactly about this. What's the name of that day again? Eradication Day. Yeah. Pretty brutal day. When I think of eradication, I think of like eradication of ants or cockroaches.
Yeah. Some other type of bug colony.
Yeah, not humanoid species. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that it was also cool that they used like the same place where Picard's doing his speech in this episode was the exact same location as where he did the speech at Starfleet Academy. Like, was literally the same like auditorium or whatever. I can't remember the name of the place, but someplace in LA at Disney, I want to say. I think it was at Disney. They used the exact same location. So in the first episode, he's doing the speech to Starfleet Academy, and there's like these flags and all that behind him. Well, he's in exactly the same spot. Anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's some kind of Disney auditorium or whatever in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Taking the place of something in San Francisco.
Yeah, and in the case of in the first episode, it's Starfleet Academy. In this, it's Star. What was it? I think they call themselves Star Core or something like that. I don't know, but a bad place.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides that, I think that's all that I've got for notes. And now for spot the references. We talked about some of this stuff, but just highlight a few things. Q says that's so yesterday's Enterprise. And then he also mentions Through a Mirror Darkly. I think both those got picked because they both are episodes that involve either alternate timelines or parallel universes. And if I went through it enough, maybe he would have said somewhere parallels or something like that. That would have been another one, or cause and effect. I don't know. I don't think he said cause and effect, but he may have said parallels too, for all I know. Among the skulls that are in there, some of them mentioned, some of them not. Gul Dukat, we hear. General Martok, we hear. Director Sarek, as opposed to Ambassador Sarek. Grand Nagus Zek is another one of the skulls, and there was a Borg in there. We don't know who, but we would assume that it was like a Borg queen or something. It was also mentioned, of course, General Sisko was there. And Slingshot Around the Sun, like Kirk's Enterprise. That's, of course, mentions, I think it's Tomorrow Was Yesterday, I think they did it. And also in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, they used that effect to time travel. All right. That's not exactly an exhaustive spot to references. I'm sure there are more, but that's what I came up with. And now we don't really have news this week. Our news for this week and next week are in the Discovery episodes. So if you want to hear the news that went on for March 10th, you can listen to Wes talking about that on season 4, episode 12 of Star Trek Discovery. I think that's episode 73. But if you want to hear Parrot Analytics, here they are. And I'm sure Ruthie will fall asleep now in the Shipwide announcements. Ha 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 ha. I just have to say that. In terms of Parrot Analytics, we had a brilliant rise in the Parrots. Picard wasn't even showing up in the top 10 the week before Picard came on. Actually, it was the week of February 26th to March 4th. So technically, Picard came on March 3rd. Anyway, it was not in the top 10. And then for the week of March 5th through March 11th, Picard went way up to number 2 in the digital originals at 33.5 times the average show demand. Only second to The Mandalorian in digitals. It did not make the overall top 10, including cable and broadcast television, but it was enough to get to the number 2 spot in digital. So I thought that was pretty good. And beyond that, that's all we've got. So to submit your theories and feedback, go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. Call 216-232-6146 to leave a voicemail. You can email us at picardcast@talkthroughmedia.com, or you can post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which is at facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. You can tweet us at PicardCast, and also our Instagram is Star Trek TTM. We don't have a specific Picard one for Picard, but the Star Trek TTM for
we don't
Star
really
Trek.
do very much on Instagram, though, do we?
We don't. We were for a while, but we just didn't. We may be starting that up again, though, so stay tuned. Anyway.
All right. If you would like to support the podcast, you can like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. And while you're there, you can write a review. Follow us on Twitter at Star Trek TTM, at PicardCast. Share us on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter, especially when we post that the new episode is out. You can subscribe to the Talk Through Media YouTube channel, which is where you'll find our newest episodes first. You can subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. You can go to podchaser.com, where you can rate and review the podcast and even individual episodes. Finally, the best way to help us keep the lights on is to support us via Patreon. We would like to thank our Patreon supporters right now: James Robbins, Kim Vogley, Brian Shiro, Michael Carrier, Jeff Gentry, Robert Kaiser, Kevin Lyle, Aaron Mays, Mike, Trey, Lawrence Todd, Kyle McAdams, Morning Pace, and Andrew Davis. Thank you.
All of our podcasts from the Talk Through Media Network can be found on the Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed, which includes Rebinge DS9, the Star Trek Discovery podcast, which you may be getting on the feed that you're hearing this on, or you may not be. If you're listening to us on the Picard feed, you aren't getting it, but if you are listening to us on the Discovery feed, you are. The Star Trek Lower Decks podcast, the Star Trek Prodigy by Rebinge, and the Walking Dead Talk Through. And speaking of the Walking Dead Talk Through, at this point, Kyle and LT just finished covering The Walking Dead Part 2 of the final season of The Walking Dead Season 11. So they just covered Season 11, Episode 16, and now they are transitioning the podcast to Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through, and we'll be covering Season 7B of that show. And the next episode of this podcast, we are now strictly doing Picard. We are done with Discovery at the time that you hear this, so our next episode is Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 3, titled Assimilation. It is written by Kylie Rossiter and Christopher Monfett, and directed by, speaking of Back to the Future, Leah Thompson. And the description from ParamountPlus.com: Picard and the crew travel back to 2024 Los Angeles in search of the Watcher, who can help them identify the point at which time diverged. Seven, Raffi, and Rios venture out into an unfamiliar world 400 years in their past, while Picard and Jurati attempt to gather information from an unlikely and dangerous ally. So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.